Well, in a few short months, social media is set to be banned for all under 16s. It generally means that students in year 10 and below won't have access to social media, including TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, and even YouTube. Now, we've covered this a lot here on the Newswire and more broadly on 6 News, and it's fair to say public opinion is pretty mixed, but we're all aware of the consequences when it comes to social media when it goes bad, but when it's used for good, it can be a pretty fantastic tool. Dr. Susan Grantham is a social media communications expert from Griffith University. Susan, thanks a lot for your time today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot for being here. Now, firstly, as I touched on, do you agree that there is a lot of good that can come from social media?
There is, yeah. There's a huge amount of good that can come from social media, and for all ages, including younger people, when used correctly and with critical thinking, with clever approaches and approaches that allow people to think a bit deeply about what they're actually engaging with. And I think that's the biggest thing that's missing right now, is teaching those young people how to actually engage in this space in an appropriate way.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we hear all the time about the bad things that happen on social media, the bullying, the cyberbullying, and things like that. And of course, but then you got to look at the good side. You've got content creation. You've got ways to communicate with your friends and stuff, whether they be halfway around the world. Do you think we could see harmful impacts from this ban, or are we leading in the right direction?
Oh, look, there's definitely going to be some elements of harmful impacts.
Mm.
We have a generation of younger people, so less than 16, who heavily rely on social media for engagement. So taking that away from them in this blanket ban is going to be extremely detrimental for their mental health. And for those connections that they've made. Particularly, I'm worried about gamers. People that are using social media to connect with people who game and game the same games as them, which in most cases they rarely meet. So these are people that have made solid connections with each other over a long period of time. They don't know each other in the face-to-face world. They only know each other in the virtual world. And that connection could be distinctly broken, which is highly detrimental, particularly when we're talking about young people in those formative years, where a lot is already going on for them. To take away those very important connections can be extremely detrimental.
Yeah, I mean, lifelong friendships have been formed out of social media. We hear about it all the time and stuff. In your view, do you think this ban in its current form, I stress in its current form, with YouTube being banned, the age verification, all that sort of stuff, do you think it will work?
No, absolutely not. For the simple reason that a ban is one element. We can't expect a ban to solve problems. A ban will just restrict access, which in most cases, I think we're not giving young people the benefit of the doubt here either, that most people know how to get around these things. So there's in many circumstances, those youths are going to access their old accounts no matter what, and they're going to find ways to do it. So that blanket ban is really not going to do anything. As I said, the big issues that we have here, particularly when we're talking bullying, particularly when we're talking about the negative aspects of social media, we need to be teaching people, not just young people, but everybody, what is appropriate behavior in an online space. It's no different. I've pointed to this a few times, where if we are in a face-to-face situation, schoolyard bullying, we have strategies, we have tactics, we have ways to teach young people how to handle themselves in those situations, particularly the whole concept of, no or stop, or, I was just at my kids' assembly this morning and they were talking about exactly this, how to feel confident to stand up and say, no, I don't like the way you're speaking to me or speaking to my friend. We need the same approaches to social media. We're going to engage with negative content at some point in the online space. So teaching people how to recognize when they don't feel comfortable about something and move away from it. That's the only way we're actually going to solve this problem.
Yeah. So would you say that, I guess, education, and I mean, I'm in year 11 at school at the moment, and all the social media stuff we have, it's always very negative. It's like, don't use it, I guess, in most of the time. But I guess you can't do that nowadays. It's you could say that it's outdated, the education around social media.
It is, and look, it's not putting the blame on schools either, because we as a society have allowed this to happen.
Yep.
So you know, parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, you know, relevant adults in young people's lives. We also have not, and we collectively have not educated ourselves in what actually occurs in this online space. So we see the negative, we see the bad, and we immediately say, just don't go there.
Yeah.
But, you know, and herein lies my big problem, is that when someone turns 16, so let's think about not the ones that are currently on there and going to miss out suddenly.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the younger ones that aren't even on social media yet.
Yeah.
We're going to allow them to live their lives up till 16 with no exposure to this. Then suddenly at 16, we turn it on for them. We hand them the keys. Off they go into the Wild West with no knowledge, no education, no guidance on how to navigate this space. That to me is terrifying.
Yeah.
And I've likened it to driving a car. We don't hit 17 and you just hand me the keys to a car.
Yeah.
We hit 17 and we have to do a driver's test. We have to do 100 hours. We need to have a learner's permit for a period of time.
Yep.
It's exactly the same. It's a danger. Driving a car is a dangerous thing. Going online can be a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
So let's teach them how to do it safely.
Yeah, no, you've said it very well. I mean, it's like dropping someone in the middle of the ocean with no swimming experience or anything. That's what it'll be like for kids up and coming who have no social media. I mean, speaking from experience, I've taught myself everything about social media and stuff, and that's all just come from using it. Like it's the practical using of it that you can actually gain experience and know what to do and what not to do. So what are we seeing companies do to actually help protect kids, and are they going far enough?
Oh, look, platforms are, it's a difficult space because you've got to remember that the platforms are global.
Yes.
So they're having to abide by rules that are set out from every corner of the world, which is problematic. And as much as they do need to be doing more to help protect and to help make these environments safe, we can't expect them to be the ones that will solve the problem either. You know, we've got to remember that social media entered our lives 21 years ago. For 21 years, we've allowed it to become what it is. Yeah. You know, and we have to take some of that responsibility, not just the platforms. Yeah. So we as a society need to be using it better as well. Yeah. It's embedded, it's here, it's not going anywhere. So we all just need to be working better together to actually make this a safer environment for young people. Yeah.
Do you think banning YouTube is too far? I mean, I've used YouTube for a long time, and we had a younger kid staying with us at our house a few weeks ago, and he was on YouTube a lot, just watching, I think it was Fortnite videos or something like that. Now, I believe YouTube Kids, it's not going to be banned, but when creators post videos, and I mean, I post a lot of videos to the Six News account and on my account as well, I feel like no one looks, you have to go to the bottom and click for YouTube Kids. I don't think a lot of people do that. I don't think a lot of even kid content, a lot of that still isn't made for kids, which means it's not available on YouTube Kids. And more broadly on YouTube, we use that for school every day, and we use things like, other Google programs for school every day for educational purposes that YouTube Kids often doesn't have.
Absolutely.
Is this YouTube ban too far?
Look, it is. Absolutely, it is. And I am quite concerned for educators. How are they going to navigate this space when young people aren't supposed to be engaging with this content, but the content that they want to use from an education perspective is, as you say, not tagged as being for children. Because, particularly if we're I'm just trying to think of some examples, but my kids, they engage with, Minecraft, for instance. So there's really interesting educative videos that aren't made for kids, because you've got to remember that when you're talking YouTube Kids, we're talking, kindergarten level as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So some of that is not actually suitable for those much, much younger groups, but it's absolutely suitable for a 10, 11, 12-year-old.
Yeah.
So there is that very big issue now that if we're engaging with YouTube Kids, then 3-year-olds might find, the way the algorithm works, mum and dad might need to put them in front of the television for half an hour, and it will flick to something that is actually not age appropriate. So in my mind, YouTube Kids has always been for the young ones, where we don't want them to get inappropriate ads, or we don't want them to get, suddenly a YouTuber who is Minecrafting or Fortniting and might say, crap or something, without saying a really bad swear word. They might say something that's just not appropriate for that younger generation. So, it's hugely problematic.
Yeah.
And let's also remember that now we're going to have these age verifications. So, educators are going to have to upload their own age verification to be able to use this in the classroom.
Yeah.
And I mean, that in itself is now becoming problematic.
Exactly. And I mean, as you said there, kids could be watching Teletubbies 1 minute and then NCIS is on the next minute, and then that's going to cause a whole lot more issues in itself. It's such a broad topic to unpack. I mean, we'll move on from that in just a second. But I mean, what is your final message to the government? It just seems like this whole thing about protecting kids, it has been done so poorly, and so they haven't consulted any ideas. It just seems like this is not the way to go.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying that it isn't a solution. I'm sure there is elements of a ban that could be a very strong solution, but in isolation, it is not a solution, and it is not going to resolve any problems. If anything, it is going to move those existing problems into dark places that are absolutely not regulated and absolutely not something that we're going to be able to see. It's not solving any problems. We're not educating young people on how to handle themselves. This is here to stay. We rely on it as a society.
Yeah.
So we should be educating people on how to engage appropriately.
Yeah, well, let's hope the government can listen and hopefully take some of these ideas on board. You also look at, Susan, social media use from governments and from politicians. So my first question is, which politician do you think is the most influencer-like?
Oh, this is an interesting question. We in Australia are using it very, very differently. So I do both studies on Australian politicians and also international politicians.
Yep.
In Australia, the party accounts, I would say that the most successful party account is the overarching Australian Labor Party account.
Yeah.
But when I look at individuals and the way that individuals are using TikTok in particular, I would say that David Crisafulli, our Queensland Premier, is one of the better ones, because he's got this really strong, consistent approach to the way that he's using it. He hasn't changed his approach. He's very authentic, performed authenticity. And it's just been consistent for a couple of years now. And I think he's doing a fantastic job with it.
Yeah.
He's not leaning heavily into trends, but he's still getting high engagement. I think his account is probably up there for me.
I mean, I see I'm mainly on Instagram. I don't go on TikTok too much, but I'm mainly on Instagram. What I see a lot of is our former Premier, Stephen Miles. He seems pretty big on social media, and I mean, his guns are also pretty big. That gets spoken a lot about at school. How do you think he does it? Because he sort of leans more into the trends, I would say, and sort of picks up from that. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. Yes. And look, there are two, but there's more than two ways, but there are two specific ways that I'm seeing in Australia the way politicians are using it. So we have this kind of consistent, authentic, but still quite professional approach, which, as I said, is what Crisafulli is using and has been using. Peter Dutton did a fairly similar thing, but his was quite slick. He didn't really let anyone into his personality.
It's a bit boring.
And obviously that didn't work for him. Anthony Albanese and Stephen Miles, they lean a little bit more into the trend-driven concept. This, I'm letting you into myself and letting you into my life. We see behind the scenes, we see inside their homes, we see, with Albanese, we see his dog a lot. There's things like that pop up for those accounts. Miles is also, one thing I will say about the way he uses it is that it aligns with his personality, which I think is very important, because the way a politician is presented in a formal setting needs to be consistent with the way that they're presenting themselves in the online setting. And I think he navigates that quite well. He's got a fun persona, and that really shines through in his social media accounts as well. And particularly leaning into the gym life. I think that did him some really wonderful. It really boosted his account in the lead up to the last election. And I do think it helped them win more seats. So you can see the power of this kind of social media, particularly short form video, in the political space. And as I said, in Australia, we're using it quite differently to what we see, particularly in Europe. Okay.
What do we see in Europe then? What's it like internationally?
Much more formal.
Yeah.
And if I move away from those individuals and move into looking at the party accounts, so if we look at the federal election from this year, Labor Party used a lot of podcasts and influencers, and that worked really well for them. The Liberal Party of Australia really lent into Italian brain rot and that, Tim Cheese brain rot trend. And that was exceptional for them. But it's so vastly different to what we see internationally. So I've done a study on what happened during the UK general elections in 24. And during that election, they did do a lot of pop culture, but very local pop culture. So not this kind of global approach that we seem to be quite comfortable to do in Australia. So they really focused heavily on pop culture and like British humour. So speaking very specifically to their target audience. Other parts of Europe, they don't have fun at all. They use it very much as a present and deliver type tool. So vastly different. We don't see as much of their persona coming through. Salvini in Italy is one where you do get a little bit of that. He loves his food, so he really leans into the Italian man who loves his food and his wine. So you see a little bit of his personality shine through, but not a lot of that happens in Europe. Then if you look at Latin America, Javier Milei, Argentina's president, he's another very interesting example of using TikTok because he's got this this persona globally as being the like Latin America's bad boy. Is kind of the way he comes across. And he wears a leather jacket and he's got his sideburns and he does a lot of this like visual framing where he leans down the camera and has like an authoritarian type approach to the way that he is displayed, which I think is a really, really fascinating approach to using this type of short form video. We don't do that in Australia. We have fun, we have this humorous, lighthearted approach, showing authenticity, showing persona, and that seems to be a much nicer way of using short form video in politics.
It really does, because otherwise then you may as well just hold a press conference or something, and that sort of social media is not for that. That's what I found at least. And do you think when they go too far, coming back to Australia, as you spoke about there with, the last election when the Liberal Party and the Labor Party leaned into that brain rot. I mean, we'll play a bit of brain rot music while we do it. If I can. Here we go. I mean, this is actually from the Liberal Party's account right now that I've pulled up about how it feels after voting for the Liberals. Do you think when they do stuff like that and maybe a slightly older person sees it who are voting age, because most of this stuff is for the younger children, right? When they see something like that, wouldn't it throw them off that it's a bit cringe?
It's a hard one to navigate because we're so divided generationally. And in all of the public commentary that I did during our federal election, I found that much younger audiences saw the brain rot and thought,
how old are we talking here?
This is So like high school.
Okay,
Let's talk high school.
Yep.
Just getting to the age where maybe you're starting to vote.
Okay.
That sort of age bracket seemed to be very like, this is cool, I like this. Then you get into sort of the older Gen Zs, and they think it's cringe. They think it's awful. Get into some millennials, the younger generation of millennials, they just wanted to see those podcasters and the influencers. That's their jam. Then my sort of age bracket of the millennials, we loved the brain rot.
Okay.
It's fun and it's different. And we've spent our entire upbringing watching boring television commercials, with the god-awful jingles that they always did every time. So we see things like this as very fun. Then as you progress through into the much older generation, so I did a lot of talkback radio over the election, and had people, 60s and above calling in and very blatantly saying, where do I find this stuff? This sounds like a lot of fun. So it really appealed to that much older generation, because again, I think we're so used to seeing politics as something really boring.
Yes, that's true.
And it's not. It's really not boring, and it's very
fun,
important for us to understand it.
I mean, sorry, you can go.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, I mean, having a look back at the Liberal Party's TikTok account, it's really interesting because, I don't know about you, Susan, but I am pretty much always online, and I am scrolling Instagram, and I see a lot of what's the trend, I guess, in the brain rot area. I mean, some of what they're posting, I just look back on and go, wow, how did they get away with this? I'll quickly play one if you don't mind. Here, we'll have a listen.
With 100 men or what the Sigma? How do you know?
I know all, and I know for sure that if Labour win tomorrow, Australia is in trouble.
I know. They caused a cost of living crisis, and now they want 3 more years.
Well, I'm off to vote for the Liberals. They are so goated.
She lied to your face. I mean,
it honestly makes me laugh at how I just can't. You just go, wow, this is a real political party. Like, wow, this is actual politics, and they're leaning into stuff like brain rot. And it happened when, I don't know if you can remember, Fatima Payman, she's a senator, and she did a brain rot speech in Parliament, and it actually got her a lot of supporters as well. Yeah,
and look, TikTok slang is one of these interesting spaces, and it's so transient, I suppose, in that it just moves and shapes and changes and shifts consistently. So, it feels like a long time ago that we were saying things like skibbity. And now suddenly we're talking, cappuccino assassino. It's just wild how quickly the languages change. But it speaks quite strongly to a very specific audience. And seeing politicians lean into some of that, I think, is very important, because we have such a strong disconnect with politics in a younger generation. I mean, I was the same when I was 18. I had to really learn about how to vote. And as an educator, as a university educator, I have a lot of students that vote for the first time whilst doing my classes. So knowing how little they understand about the political system really concerns me. And social media, particularly TikTok, is opening up this potential, this space for young people who don't yet vote or are not yet politically engaged to start being curious about it, and I'm not talking about picking sides yet or, aligning to a party, but just being curious. And I think that's what the brain rot really did this time is, I will admit that I think brain rot was probably targeting a slightly younger audience that aren't yet ready to vote. But it did still spark conversation. It did still spark, that younger group of people saying, this is cool. What is it that they're talking about? What is it about Medicare that was the problem? And then they start investigating, or they talk to their parents, or they talk to teachers. And that is just so powerful.
Well, it's a shame. It's a shame, Susan, that might not continue when we have a social media ban, which is a real shame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and isn't it isn't it mad that we're potentially going to ban it from young people, yet it's the main tool that they're using to talk to young people?
Exactly. Talk about being hypocritical. They're using social media to get videos for younger generation, and they're about to shut it out for the younger generation. My God, you couldn't write it better. Finally, do you think this is the future of political campaigning, what we're seeing?
Oh, look, it's going to change.
Yeah.
It will continue to change. It's definitely the now of political campaigning. And look, we saw short form video be a huge part of all of the many elections that we've had in 24 and 25. And I think it will continue to be a strong feature. But, obviously we're going through new technological change with AI and AI video. And anything could happen between now and the next big election. So I think it's a wait and see.
Yeah. All right. Dr. Susan Grantham, thank you so much for your time here on the Newswire.
Thanks for having me.